Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Jewish Matters podcast. Tonight we are at the last of our High Holidays series. The question is, how did Shmini Atzeret, which is the 8th day holiday, the end of Sukkot, become Simhat Torah? Now, many people have barely heard of Shmini Atzeret, and it's quoted that the Maggid of Koznitz said that Shmini Atzeret is greater than even the holiday of Shavuot. Why? Because it is the day of rain. It says the day of rain, when we pray for rain, is greater than Shavuot, when the Torah was given. And so, why is that? So that's in the Talmud, Tainit number 7, it says that. And in the Midrash Sachar Tov, so the Talmud says that the Torah is compared to rain. So if it's compared to rain, rain must be greater. The Midrash says that the Torah brings blessing to the entire world, but the Torah brings blessing to the Jewish people who study it, but the rain brings blessing directly to the entire world. And so it's said that the Klausenberger Rebbe, who was in the camps during the war, he was in a labor camp, and he kept all of the mitzvot in the camp. He kept kosher. He managed to get candles or wax, something to burn, to have Hanukkah candles. He managed to get wheat to make matzah. But the day of Shmini Atzeret, he underwent particular pain and beatings in order to make sure that he didn't work on the holiday, to keep the holiday of Shmini Atzeret. That's how special it was to him. So what is this holiday? Shmini means 8. Atzeret means to remain over or to stay with. So in a sense, it is the 8th day stay over holiday. What does it mean? It means that Sukkot is a 7-day holiday. We sit in the Sukkah, we take the lulav and etrog, we have rejoicing. In normal years, we have a lot of parties, Simchat Beit HaShveva parties. And after it's all over, which is really the end of the entire high holiday cycle, we have one more day where we stay over. And the analogy is given that it's like someone who you love. So you go out on your anniversary, you go out on birthdays, you go out on holidays, but sometimes you say, you know what? I just want to hang out with you. No reason, no excuse, no idea behind it. So Shmini Atzeret has no distinguishable mitzvah that we do, like Sukkot, sitting in the sukkah, or Passover with the matzah. There's no definitive mitzvah for Shmini Atzeret. So what is it? It's the 8th day just to be with the Almighty, for no reason other than just to be. And we want to stick around another day, even after all of the long holiday cycle. So that's the idea behind it. And 8 in the Torah and Judaism is a number of particular significance. 7 is the infusing the physical with spiritual. That's like the Shabbat. 8 is transcending the physical. 8 is going beyond, right? Hanukkah is 8 days, the miracle of the lights. At the end of 7 7-year cycles, you had the Jubilee year when slaves were released and property went back to its original owners. All of the physical laws of the world were some of them were suspended, were abnegated. So 8 means going beyond into the metaphysical, into the spiritual. So this day is obviously very special. Now, it's a little confusing because in Israel you have 7 days of Sukkot and then you have the 8th day Shmini Atzeret. Very clear, pretty understandable. But it's outside of Israel where it gets complicated because we have 2 days of holiday, right? So Sukkot is 7 days, but then like on Passover, the 7th day of Sukkot is doubled into the 8th day by the rabbis. So the last day of Sukkot overlaps with Shmini Atzeret, with our 8th day holiday. So outside of Israel, many people have the custom to eat their meals in the sukkah, but we don't sleep in the sukkah and we don't say the blessing of sitting in the sukkah because they didn't want the sukkah to overshadow Shmini Atzeret too much. So that's another wrinkle that we have to explain. On top of that, so now we talk about a holiday people might have heard of actually more than Shmini Atzeret, which is Simhat Torah, the holiday when we dance with the Torah. And it's one of the most joyous days of the Jewish calendar, like Purim, maybe even more so, because we're in the synagogue, we take the Torahs out of the ark, we dance around in a circle, some people make l'chaims, some people take the dancing out into the streets. In normal years, we're all holding hands in unity, and it's going to be a sad Simchat Torah, although if the Klausenberger Rebbe could have find joy in the holidays in the middle of the Shoah and the Holocaust, we can certainly find joy in the holidays with our lockdown we're going through here in Israel. So Simchat Torah, interestingly enough, is celebrated on Shmini Atzeret. In Israel on the 8th day, so Shmini Atzeret is Simchat Torah. Outside of Israel, Simchat Torah is celebrated on the 9th day. What is the 9th day? So you have Simchat Torah, you have Shmini Atzeret, you have the 8th day celebrated outside of Israel. But every holiday is doubled. So you have the 8th day, and then the next day, the 9th day, is the rabbinic doubling of the holiday of the 8th day. So what did the rabbis do? So outside of Israel, Simchat Torah is done on the 9th day. So what is Simchat Torah? Where does it come from? What's so interesting is that people might have heard of it more than Shmini Atzeret, and yet it's a later, more recent holiday. The origins probably are in what is called the Gaonic period, which is around the 8th, 9th, 1000s in Babylon, which was the center of learning at that time before it shifted to Europe. And they used to finish the Torah cycle. So on Shmini Atzeret, on Simchat Torah, what are we rejoicing over? So in some ways it's different than Shavuot. Shavuot, we celebrate the giving of the Torah. And on Simchat Torah, we celebrate the completion of the Torah. So in a sense, Shavuot is the beginning, Simchat Torah is the end. Why? Because we've read the entire annual cycle and we finished Deuteronomy, the last book, on Simchat Torah. And then right away we call up someone else and we start the beginning of Genesis. And the first letter in the Torah is a Beit. The last letter is a Lamed. So when you go from Devarim to Bereshit, from the end of the Torah to the beginning, it spells out the word Lev, which means heart. So the last word in the Torah is Yisrael. The last letter is Lamed, heart, El. So we put our heart into it. Now, a question is, if I'm going to finish the annual cycle of reading the Torah every week, wouldn't you think I'd finish it before Rosh Hashanah at the end of the new year? Why do we wait until after Sukkot to do so? Good question, right? So there is actually a very interesting answer. And the answer is this, that the giving of the Torah was on Mount Sinai, on the holiday of Shavuot, the 6th of Sivan, or the 7th of Sivan. It's a debate in the Talmud. And we know when Moshe came down with the Ten Commandments, with the tablets. The Jewish people had built a golden calf. He gets upset. He breaks the tablets. And the Jewish people, God says, I'm done with them. So 40 more days, Moshe goes up onto Mount Sinai, pleads with God, please don't sever your covenant with the people. God acquiesces. Moshe goes up for another 40 days to receive the second tablets, to receive complete forgiveness and reinstating of God and the Jewish people. And when does he come down with those second tablets, which, by the way, he says to Moshe, you should write these tablets. The first ones were written by God, the finger of God. The second ones were Moshe. So the second tablets have more of, in a sense, a human participatory element. Topic for a whole other discussion. So the second tablets were brought down the day before Yom Kippur. And so really, maybe Yom Kippur should be the day of celebrating Simhat Torah. Well, that wouldn't be so easy because you're fasting. Well, then let's do it a few days later at Sukkot. Well, I've got to sit in the sukkah. So, in a sense, what the rabbis did is they put off the celebration of the second giving of the Torah to the first available day. What was that? Shmini Atzeret. I've got a free holiday which has no symbol to it. So let's do it then. So that's how Simchat Torah got to be on the day after the Sukkot holiday. And what do? We do hakafot. We circle the bima, the table where we read the Torah, with the Torah's dancing. Where does that come from? When else do we circle? When else do we do hakafot? With our lulav and etrog, we go around. And in the temple times, they would circle the altar with the lulav and etrog, with the 4 species, and with the aravot, with the willow branches as well. There was a separate ceremony of circling it with the willow. So we base our Torah celebration on that. There are 7 hakafot, 7 circlings of the bima. By the way, on the last day of Sukkot, Hoshana Rabbah, which will be tomorrow night and morning, we do 7 songs, 7 times. We read all 7 poems. And so in Simchat Torah, we do that as well. Each circle has a poem we read, and it's not just one circling, actually. It's a whole set, in a sense, like a musical concert. We do a set for each hakafah, for each circling. And so it can sometimes take hours and hours and hours. Some people go all night, some people go all day. It's an amazing, amazing holiday full of joy. And then, also interesting, very unique, that it's the only time we read the Torah at night. We take out the Torah, we read the end of Deuteronomy at night, then we read it again during the day. And there was a custom that developed around the taking out of the Torah, is that people would pledge money. And so because of that, they would support the community, pledge support for the community. And because of that, they would be given a special honor. So you have this phenomenon called the Chatan Torah, which is the person, Chatan means the groom. And we know that for the Shavuot holiday, the analogy of God being married, the Jewish people being married to God is used. So here too in Simchat Torah, we use that analogy of God being married to the Jewish people. So we have Chatan Torah, who is the person who completes the Torah, the last Aliyah, the last Torah reading of Deuteronomy. Then we have the Chatan Breshit, the person who's called up for the beginning of Genesis. And the custom is to hold a talit over the person at the bima, where you read the Torah, and like a groom. And then there's a very beautiful custom. Some synagogues, they call up all the children for one of the aliyot as well. So Genesis, we only read the first aliyah, the first section of Genesis. There's also Chatan Maftir sometimes for the Haftarah, and often they sponsor a Kiddush, sometimes on Simchat Torah, sometimes a week or 2 later. But there's a whole paragraph, a whole prayer read for this special distinguished person that was instituted in Babylon. So that takes a long time. Now remember, in Israel, we're doing everything on the same day. There's a special prayer we say in Musaf for the prayer for rain, which Tfilat Geshem, which also is a poem that is read in the repetition of the Amidah, of the silent prayer. And that's what we said before, that Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day, is the day we pray for rain. In Israel, the rainy season begins just about now, although it's supposed to be 97 degrees tomorrow. So I don't know if we're getting rain this Sukkot. Last year, Sukkot was 9 days later, And sure enough, we got windstorms, rain, we got it all last year. So I guess maybe we have enough stored up for 2 years. So we do the prayer for rain. We do the dancing with the Torah. We do a special poem that is read before the Torah is read. We do a special poem read for the Haftarah. We call it the Chatanim. So sometimes it can become an all-day affair. And in Israel, we always start much earlier, around 7:30. So the day is not quite as long. So, but it's a very joyous holiday. And it's a joyous holiday because of Simchat Torah. And it's a very joyous holiday, as we said, because of Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day celebration. And the idea of celebrating when you finish the Torah is one that is not just done in Simchat Torah. And there's a beautiful custom that when you finish studying a significant amount of material, classically it's done on a volume of the Talmud, which might take a year to finish. I once did a big volume of the Talmud. We studied once a week for an hour. It took us 4 years to finish. But we did eventually. And then we did a siyum, which is, l'sayim means to complete. And there's a special prayer, special kaddish that is said. Usually there's one teaches the last section of what you studied. There's a kaddish that is said. And then, of course, let's eat. You have a celebratory meal. So it's not just on Simchat Torah that you can do this, but really the entire year you can do it. Now, there was once someone came to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, one of the great rabbis, and a person who'd never studied Torah set out to start studying Torah. And what did he start with? He started with Genesis. And he completed the entire book. And so imagine how happy he was and what joy he had to feel the sense of accomplishment of completing his first major volume of Torah study. And they went to Rav Moshe Feinstein and they said, what do we do? And he said, of course you do a siyum. Of course you do a celebratory event, bringing people together. You get a minyan together. And because for him it was a great joy. So any significant, sizable portion of Torah that one would finish reading, one should do such a celebration as well. So after all the holidays, after all the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, God says to us, stick around just one more day. And we should try and appreciate that. Sometimes just being is enough. You don't need an anniversary, you don't need a birthday, you don't need an excuse. So with that, we should have great joy for the holiday and wish us all blessings. Rain represents livelihood. Remember, the Jewish people were farmers, we're an agrarian society. So the beginning of the rainy season was really crucial time of year to pray for rain because they just finished bringing in all the crops on Sukkot. And in a sense, Sukkot, Thanksgiving is modeled after Sukkot, the thanks for all of the crops which had to last you through the winter. Remember, they didn't have, fruits being grown in California, Florida, or the Negev being shipped up to the rest of the country. So in Israel also, the grain, which was a basic staple, everything is planted after the holidays, and getting rain in that time of planting is crucial to one's prosperity for the coming year. So if Sukkot was gratitude for the crop from the past year, Shmini Atzeret is praying for rain and looking forward to the blessings for the coming year. Blessings based on the merit, as we said, of having one more day of the holiday. And we also remember that in our prayers, we no longer see Morid Atal. We don't ask God to bring down the dew. We say, Mashiv Haruach Morid Geshem. We ask God to make it rain and to bring up the winds and to bring in the rain. And during the week, we say, Tein Talamatal Lebracha. So we ask for dew and rain in our blessing prayer. So all of this is to say that this is a time where we hope we've been inscribed in a positive way. According to Son Hoshana Rabbah, the 7th day of Sukkot is the end, the final sealing. We said on Rosh Hashanah we're written, on Yom Kippur we're inscribed, but the final inscription, according to some, is on Hoshana Rabbah. So the 7th day of Sukkot, there's also going to be some similarities to Yom Kippur. The cantor puts on a white robe. We use the intonation from the Yom Kippur prayer. And as I said before, we go around the Bima 7 times with the Lulav and Etrog. So it should be a good conclusion of our holiday period. And I hope this has shed some light into a holiday that the 8th day, Shmini Atzeret, that often people are very puzzled about and want to understand more. And we should all rejoice on Simhat Torah, even if our proximity is curtailed and we are doing social distancing, but we can still have the joy over the completion of the Torah. Have a good evening.